As is the case with most of the videos that I do, I don't have an exact plan on what I'm going to say. I have points and ideas based on my education in dietetics and just the general reading that I do, my observations of other people. And this has been an interesting one that has come up over the last several years, the idea of gluten being so negative for us. And today I'm going to bring up Israelis, the people of Israel, the famous people of the Bible, the people that we read about in the Old Testament, like Jasper. But so we see like this idea emerging in the last decade or so where people are really against the concept of gluten. And that's particularly notable for people with celiac disease. There are three groups that really should avoid wheat, at least. And those would be people with celiac disease. They should avoid all grain products that contain gluten. And those being wheat, barley, and rye. Oats get listed into that group because oats are generally processed alongside those, and there's what's called cross-contamination where gluten infects the oats. You can also buy gluten-free oats, though. So oats in and of themselves do not contain gluten. But nevertheless, barley, rye, and wheat do. So those products would be notable to avoid. And what happens with celiac disease is that you have villi in your intestines, and those villi are what's called finger-like, that's how they're described in my textbook anyways, like finger-like projections that come out of your intestines and they absorb nutrients. When you consume gluten, the problem is that those villi retract and they stop absorbing nutrients. So usually people with celiac disease will be very underweight. Usually, it's not always the case, but usually they're very underweight. They have problems absorbing nutrients, so they get anemia of various types. And it's just really problematic for those people. The problem that I see in that is that I see tons of people in my own life that are saying now, I have celiac disease, and I have this problem. I have celiac disease. And then, like, a month later, you see them and they're eating sandwiches and stuff. And I'm like, well, I thought you had celiac disease. Like, oh yeah, I kind of got over that. I didn't really have it, or yeah, they just, I'm just eating gluten again now. I'm just dealing with it. And I'm like, you didn't have celiac disease. There was no. You're just making crap up. But some people really do. I mean, it is a rare disease. So when people say it, I'm almost always skeptical. But they're like, yeah, my doctor diagnosed me with it. And even then, like later you find out, well, I was just, they thought maybe I had it or whatever. I don't know. I can't comment on that. Anyway, so the second group of people that would want to avoid those foods would be people with wheat allergies or gluten sensitivity. Essentially, it causes headaches, causes allergic-like responses. So obviously, they should avoid that. But then you see Americans in general, and they have this idea of cut the wheat, cut the weight. And it was a book that came out talking about gluten and the horrors of gluten. And that's notable for Americans because we love to hop on every bandwagon that comes through. We love to hear every magic diet, every magic pill that's going to cause weight loss. We're all on board with it. We want to hop on it, which is ridiculous because we're a ridiculous people. We have problems. I wouldn't say we're a lazy people, but we want convenience, even in the face of stupidity. So I want to bring up today this fact that the Israeli people have lived off a diet based around wheat products for the last several thousand years, and many of them, for the most part, avoid many of the health problems that we see in our Western diet. They are not a vegan people, they're not a vegetarian people. In fact, in the Bible, those same people, not that that's the diet that people in Israel follow today, but in the diet, whenever God, led them into the wilderness, He told them, I'll provide you manna day in and day out. They ate manna. And supposedly it provided all forms of nutrition for them. It grew, it was sent from heaven, manna from heaven. And the people cried out in response, "No, we want meat! We want meat!" And so God provided them meat. So they are not a vegetarian people. But Avi Levant, I can't even pronounce his last name. I posted him in several videos. I think it's Avi Layani is my best guess. If he ever sees this, I'll cry because I butcher people's names so bad. I apologize. But you can see pictures here I'll post of Avi, and he follows. This is how he would describe his diet. My staple foods are whole wheat bread, brown rice, oats, and beans. So those are his primary staple foods, and that's from his page on bodybuilding.com, veganbodybuilding.com. And so whole wheat bread is the very first thing that he mentions, and I'm not seeing a lot of weight problems there with him. Another dietary staple of the Israeli people is couscous. Whole wheat couscous. My mom actually bought this, and she tried to become a vegetarian for a little while because she saw that, I was having a lot of really good health benefits from it. And she said, I really want to do this. I'm going to try to eat healthier. So she went and bought that couscous, and she made it once, and then never touched it again. So I wouldn't say she's real consistent in some of her dietary adventures. But so I personally am really not into this concept. You see like the Mediterranean diets and people along the Mediterranean areas there, which is an assortment of different diets, whether you're in Crete, whether you're in Italy, they're all different kind of dietary ideas, staple foods, different foods that they're eating. But pasta is among them, and pasta is made from wheat. So you see health benefits from wheat-based diets where people are including, in their case, lots of ground flaxseed. They ate a lot of flaxseed. I'm not sure what else it all goes into it. I don't know all the ins and outs of people in the Mediterranean area and their diet, but I know they eat a lot of pasta. So is it true that if you just cut the wheat, you'll cut the weight? Well, it depends on what you put on your bread. If you're putting butter and all kinds of really fatty foods, you can add 600 calories to a few pieces of toast, when otherwise the toast would have just had maybe 100 or so, depending on how many you ate. I think one piece of bread's usually like between 50 and 75 or so calories. Maybe you get like the really thick, expensive breads. They might be a little bit more calories, but they'll also be a lot more nutrient dense and more filling. So I don't know if nutrient dense is the right word there. They're dense with other nutrients. We'll say that. But so that's the idea. I don't really have a whole lot to say. Today's video wasn't as organized as maybe it typically is, but so I'm not going to say cut the wheat, cut the weight. I think that's false. So just my opinion. You guys have a good day.